Okay, it's been 48 hours since I poured the second pour. 72 hours since I poured the initial pour. So it hopefully has done what outgassing is going to do. Then I've cleaned it with acetone a couple of times, really good. Letting that flash off now, evaporate off. I'm getting ready to start cutting my cloth. I'm going to use 1708, the biaxial 1708. And when you're working to old work like this, and you're using a 1708, you want to put the chop strand mat layer down toward the old work. That'll give you the best bond. Subsequent layers, wet on wet, doesn't really matter that much, but your initial layer, you want the mat down, because you got defined fibers, crisscrossing fibers. It just gets a much better bond. Actually, that's why it was developed the way it is to be able to give you a better bond. The coarser fabric just doesn't lay as tight to it and just won't get as good of a bond. Wet on wet, it doesn't really matter, I don't think. Putting new work onto old work, you want to use that matte layer toward the old work, and that'll give you the best bond between the old and the new. At least that's what I've always read and heard. I think that's true. That's the way I normally do it, and I haven't had any issues with anything trying to delaminate or anything ever. And then after that, like I said, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to be putting my first layer down full size. So I'm going to do probably 3 layers. So I think I'm going to do 1708, and then a layer of E-glass, and then another layer of 1708 with the mat turned up. I think that's what I'm going to do. And that should be sufficient, more than sufficient. I'll only add more if I've still got any kind of a depression or whatever, because I have got this ground down in, pretty strong there, so that I could build this thing back up without getting considerably higher than it originally was. I always like to try to pre-wet the surface whenever possible. Now, I know I'm going to have some sanding or grinding to do around the edges. That's fine. I just want to make sure that I get it as far to the edge as I can, so that I've got the most bonding surface to the old part that I can. On the other hand, I didn't really want to carry it around the corner and down the sides and make all that bigger, because then I'd be into, all the way around the hatch there and everything, because it's all made into that same base piece. I've got an AC running in the background, so if you wonder what all that noise is, it just cut off. And I just made these pieces. Each successive layer is a ½ inch smaller, so they're almost the same size. Don't have a lot of time to work with epoxy, especially when you've mixed up a pretty good sized batch. Trying to pull some of the fibers at the ends to kind of interlock the pieces. Trying to work out any air bubbles that's in it. This 1708, it has a tendency to lay pretty flat, pretty easy, without a lot of hassle. This helps work resin out to the edges too. But you have to put this in acetone like right away, or you won't get it clean, not without a lot of difficulty. So I mix that batch of resin up almost perfectly. I don't usually get it quite so good. Sometimes I do. Okay, I did come back and add a layer of matte on top of it, just so I would have something a little better for sanding, you know, to get this edge, you know, tapered back down and radius down. So the matte gives me a little bit better surface to sand, you know, to sand down and round down and all. And then, you know, I can do a good, you know, heavy sanding over the whole thing to get it smooth without getting down into my 1708 cloth fabric so much. I mean, of course, I'll still hit it in these, you know, whenever I radius these edges, but just right on the outer tip of it. So I'm okay. I'm pleased with that. It's already started to gel. It'll be probably set up enough to sand, you know, later this afternoon. As long as you prep it really good, you can gel coat over it. And I'm not opposed to painting this either. I just, you know, I've got gel coat, so I was just gonna put gel coat on it. Hopefully I can get a halfway decent match with the color. I'm not the world's best at matching colors. That's why I draw pencil and pen and ink. This is my new work here, and I don't think I got anything anywhere at all. But I had everything taped up good, and I had some foam core laid across the area as well. Not that I haven't gotten it on something before in the past, I certainly have. But all this is previous owner. But he definitely made a lot more work for me. But this turned out pretty good here. It's dry to touch, but it's not cured yet. It's still soft. I just took a razor knife and trimmed the perimeter before it got too hard. I like to try to do that before it gets rock hard because it saves you a whole lot of sanding and grinding later. So I trimmed it, you know, as close as I could with a razor blade up against that shoulder of it there. I will have to do some fairing on this for sure. I'm a little bit shallow here and here, and here and here, and you know, down the edge, you know, where I had ground it down, but not bad, not bad. Just a, you know, half a cup of fairing compound probably do it all. Okay, got it all taped up again to try to keep the fairing compound off of everything else. Yeah, I mixed up some Total Fair. That's what I'm going to use here. I'm just using just regular old metal trowels just like you would use in drywall or your sheetrock work. This stuff is kind of sticky. But it sands easily. You don't usually have to go back over it as long as you put enough on it the first time. You get plenty on it. It's easy enough to sand it back down. You know, get it back down to where you need it to be. It does help to keep your blade clean. And then get it close and then leave it alone. Okay, so there's the first coat of barrier paint. I'll put at least one more coat on there, maybe two. I need that to go between the fairing compound and my gel coat if I use gel coat. I think I'm going to use gel coat. So either way, the barrier coat's not a bad idea. You know, keep moisture from wicking through the gel coat. Okay, I got the final coat of barrier paint on it. Once that cures, I'll sand that out and clean it good, and then it'll be ready for paint or gel coat.